Welcome, everybody. We'll call to order the Grand Forks City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Get a roll call, please, Maureen.
Weigel.
Here.
Sowski. Here. Weber. Here. Lensky. Here. Kavami.
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
Oh, I see President
him,
Sandy
yeah, I see him
and
there.
Veen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.3, Mayor's announcements. There are none. Just wish everybody a happy 2024 and a happy new year. Item 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations. There are none. So item 3, public hearings and second readings of ordinances.
3.1, public hearing and second reading of ordinance relating to the sales tax amendment.
All right, we'll open up the public hearing for item 3.1. Anybody here to speak on item 3.1 this evening? Any no cards as well? Ms. Lundmark on. All right. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion and open up to council for action.
I move approval.
Motion to approve from Ms. Osowski, second from Mr. Weigel. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, move on to item 4, citizen comments, or as they relate to action items. Any comments this evening, Ms. Storstad?
We have none.
All right, let's move on to item 5, action items. Is there any items that council wished to be pulled for further discussion this evening?
5.3, 5.7, 5.8.
Thank you. Any others? All right, so we look for consent approval on items 5.1, 5.2, 5.4, 5.5, and 5.6. Got a motion from Vice
Second.
President Weber, second from Ms. Osowski. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. So it'd be 5.3, 5.7, and 5.8, Ms. Dorstead.
5.3, plans and specs for project 8738, District 777, reconstruct 10th Avenue North, North 5th Street to 500 feet west.
All right, did you have any particular specific questions, Ms. Osowski?
I don't. I guess I would just like to hear a little bit more about it. I did have a call from a concerned constituent about it. I believe they stated that they were going to sign a petition for it. So I guess I would just like to learn a little bit more about what's going to happen and the special assessment part.
Mr. Danielson, why don't you give us a brief overview?
Sure. Thanks, Mayor Paczynski. Councilmember Ozowski. So this project is a reconstruction project on 10th Avenue North here from about North Washington Street to 5th Street. So it's about 500 feet of reconstruct, and this road was selected to be on our reconstruction list because we got multiple phone calls here this spring. It kind of fell apart here with the freeze thaw this spring. I think this one even got closed down for a duration of time here during the spring. So this one's been one that we've been keeping an eye on, and it finally made its way to the top of our list for the reconstruction. The road itself is pretty old at this point, and some of the dimensions on the road and the geometry of the road doesn't meet our current standards, so it also fits a couple other criteria that check some boxes on our end to be on our list for reconstruction. This is a special assessment project. The district has already been approved for it, and at this point, it's on the agenda for plans and specs. The special assessments for this project is an 80-20 split per city policy, so 80% city cost share, 20% gets special assessed. At this point, the project is estimated to be about $480,000, so the city share goes to about $380,000 on that project. So as far as the petition that you've heard about, as it is a transportation project or a road project, those ones can be protested because it's a special assessment project. So if I believe it's 50% of the special assessment district were to come together and say, we do not want this project, the project can be protested out. That's a little different to utility projects that we would do. A road project can be protested, whereas those utility projects typically cannot be.
And I just have a question. So does the road have to be built like thicker or wider to accommodate like larger truckloads? I think maybe that was one of the concerns that they stated. And how many properties are being assessed for this?
So to answer your first question, Councilmember Ozowski, we would not I don't believe we are designing this road. I have to go back and check to see what pavement section we're going with, but in the discussions that I've been a part of for this project, we aren't building this road to accommodate a higher level of traffic for trucks. This is not a designated truck route, so we would treat it as such in the design and not increase the thickness of that road section to accommodate those trucks. That doesn't mean that the trucks probably don't end up there from time to time, but we would be improving what's there and we would be designing it to a local street standard, as that's what it is in our book. And then attached to the staff report, if you've got that in front of you, we do have a special assessment map here. Without counting them off the top of my head, I'd say maybe 15, 20 properties are in the assessment district that would get assessed. And I don't have the benefit distribution in front of me, but some of those may not get the same as others.
How do you determine, like, the radius of the assessment area?
So we have a special assessment policy here at the city that we follow that dictates where those lines get drawn. And for a local street like this one, the intention of the special assessment policy is to assess a local street like this one. You would get as a lot on the street, a frontage street for a local street, and then you would also get a sidage street for your local street. So this one, for those properties that are right up against the street there, this would be their fronting local street. So that district then goes to halfway to the next local street in the perpendicular direction. And then there would be another set of criteria for if a local street to your, your other direction were being reconstructed. There's different criteria, but for this street, you go halfway to the next local street. And then those within that boundary all
So
come
there's
in.
like a formula to
Yeah,
determine.
it's a set of
so-
directions that we follow.
Okay, so it's not like we just draw the lines and call it good?
No, there is a set of rules that we follow for the assessment districts, or at least a policy that we start with, and then we bring that to city council for approval.
Okay,
And then the special assessment commission determines benefit.
all right, thank you.
I'll move to approve staff recommendation.
Okay, got a motion from Vice President Weber. Got a second from Mr. Weigel. Any further discussion on item 5.3? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
5.7, award bid number 2023-14, 2024 water chemical bid.
We got Ms. So. All right. Ms. Botten.
Yes. I'll do my best to answer questions in lieu of Fred being here.
Yeah, please.
All right, so water, one of my favorite topics. First of all, I would not drink the city water. Can you explain, so I'm looking at the list of chemicals. Can you explain, like, are these being added to our water supply after they go through the water treatment plant? And what would be added like before? I saw 5.8 are chemicals, I believe, to clean the reverse osmosis machine. That's the next item number,
Sure.
though. But I would just like to know, actually, which of these items are being put into our water after it's being treated?
Okay, so these chemicals are used to help treat our water. So you're probably aware we take raw water from the Red River and the Red Lake River. It's not suitable for drinking in its raw state. So there's various processes throughout the water treatment plant. There's a pre-treatment process, there's softening, there's our new membranes and a reverse osmosis. So different chemicals are added at various processes to help treat the raw water. Get rid of bacteria in the water, get rid of sediment in the water, and those types of things. So that's why there's treatment for that raw water. It cleans it basically of, you think of, you get diseases if you drink raw river water sometimes. There's filtering kits that you take. So this helps filters and cleans the water, the raw water as it comes in. So throughout the process, there's various treatments that take place. And then the second one that you see, 5.8, those chemicals clean our treatment equipment, if you will. We've got membranes and filters that need to be cleaned, and those are sole sourced because of the company that we bought the equipment from. So they have specific chemicals or specific agents that treats those chemicals. So there's membranes. I don't know if you've been out to the water plant, but some of the membranes are like these little skinny rubber band that are in cartridges, and those need to be cleaned. And so this helps clean the process, like you'd, clean, your faucet or your floor or something like that that's, needs to be cleaned.
So like, the ammonia, at what point is the ammonia dumped in? Or like, at what point is the chlorine? Because I know we have chlorine in our drinking water that is pumped into my faucet. There is chlorine in that. So is it not being completely taken out of the water from that? Or do you dump it in to go to our homes? I'm just kind of wondering, like, how does that chlorine get in my drinking water?
So that's added for disinfection. That helps disinfect the raw water. So it gets rid of all those little bacteria.
Right, at what point?
At the end. It's at the end.
So right before it gets pumped to my house, it gets dumped in our drinking water?
Yes, and what's required of us is there are roughly 70 spots throughout the city in our distribution system that we sample monthly to make sure that we're within those limits that we have to meet for disinfection, because things can fall up along the way. So we're monitoring that system constantly throughout the month, every month. So there's at least 70 sites throughout the city that we do monitor to make sure we're maintaining our water quality that's required by state and federal law.
Right. A lot of that water quality, though, doesn't take into consideration the age of the people that are drinking it. I mean, a dose of chlorine to me might be different than a dose of chlorine to a 2-year-old. Also, the amount of city water that people are actually drinking. So what about the ammonia? At what point is that dumped into our water supply? And I also didn't see anything about fluoride on here. Are we not putting fluoride no longer in our tap water, or?
Yep, there is fluoridation. That's in our tap water as well. And the ammonia is part of our disinfection process as well. So, and as far as those different variables for, like you said, a 2-year-old versus an 85-year-old, for example, there's been multiple studies done, and that's where those ranges come in. If you look at our water quality reports or any of our permits that we're required to meet, they do take into effect young populations, old populations, at-risk populations. So there's been multiple studies done, to ensure that those ranges are appropriate. Right.
I believe that about 15 months ago, Harvard did a study on the effects of fluoride on the human body, and there is a correlation between fluoride and lower IQs. So I just don't take this stuff, I guess, really so much at face value. I just want to know, at what point does the ammonia get dumped in? Are we drinking ammonia? Are we adding ammonia to the water supply and then it goes through reverse osmosis? I mean, how much of these chemicals are actually coming through the tap?
Do you know when the ammonia is added?
Ammonia is added in and around the disinfection, so it works with chlorine, ammonia. And so there's certain requirements that we have to make sure we maintain a certain chlorine level, and ammonia works with, I'm not a chemist, but it works with the chlorine. And so we just can't dump straight chlorine. That's why we're essentially disinfecting with chloramines. So we're using chlorine with ammonia to create chloramines as a better way to disinfect the water. So that process is happening at the end, because when it gets to your tap, we need to make sure we have enough disinfection in the water to meet the user of that water. So that's the important part of what we're doing throughout our system, because if we didn't have enough chlorine in our water, that should be troubling for everybody who's drinking our water.
I don't think anybody should be drinking our tap water or anybody else's tap water for that matter, but.
I would say, Councilmember Osowski, whether you buy water, Dasani water or
I would never
Aquafina, or you go to the grocery store, drinking water has a disinfectant in it. And most times it's related to some form of chlorine. Otherwise, you couldn't distribute it to the public.
I highly recommend don't drink the water. But I guess I move approval on the poisons, so.
All right, we have a motion on item 5.7. Do we have a second? Then we can open up for further discussion.
I'll second it, and I will probably contradict what you've said. I have the utmost faith in the quality of our drinking water, and I feel it's safer than probably anything you can get that's bottled, and we'll continue to do that. And we have had an ongoing differences of opinion, but I truly believe that. I think we have excellent quality water treatment, both through two different treatment systems at our water plant. And I think the net result is something that meets or exceeds EPA standards.
Thank you, Mr. Veen. Any further discussion? Vice President Weber, please.
The most recent Harvard study I can find does point out that at the beginning of the 20th century, fluoride was being added to the water. Since then, we get it in toothpaste and other things. So the amount of fluoride in drinking water has continually been decreased to accommodate for those other levels. Of all the city services, law enforcement, fire protection, the building and maintenance of our roads, garbage collection, et cetera, the one that I use the most often, day and night, and at work and at home and in our city's restaurants, et cetera, is our wonderful water purification process. So thanks for your work. I'm ready to vote.
All right, any other comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. So item 5.8,
5.8, 2024 sole source water chemicals.
was there any other on that
No,
item?
she answered. Thank you. I move approval.
Got a motion to approve from Ms. Osowski, second from Vice President Weber. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, item 6, information items, there are none. Item 7, approval of minutes and bills.
7.1, vendor list and engineer's estimate.
Got a motion to approve from Mr. Weigel and a second from Ms. Osowski. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're on to item number 8. Do we have any citizen comments in general nature? Ms. Storstad?
We have none.
All right, thank you. Mr. Phelan, we're on to item 9, city administrator comments.
No, thank you.
All right, item 10, mayor and council member comments. Mr. Weigel, any comments this evening?
No, thank you.
Ms. Osowski, any comments?
No, thank you.
Let's see, Ms. Lunsky, any comments? All right, Mr. Kavami, any comments this evening?
Yeah, just had a couple of comments. One, just I wanted to bring up for dialogue, perhaps maybe something that we can add to our next council meeting is just our discussion on our representation on the MPO, even not just specifically members, but how the representation is determined as an organizational level. You know, what are the bylaws driving that? You know, the structure of the MPO committee, and just understanding what our flexibility is there, and then ultimately maybe even having a discussion on members as it regards to the direction that the MPO has been taking over the last few years, and my personal concerns, and I just want to have a discussion as a council about it.
Okay, I know we're going to have an item coming up next week. We can definitely add to the committee of the whole and work from there, if that works for you, Mr. Kavami.
Well, unfortunately, I'll be out of pocket for the next committee of the whole meeting, so wanted to see if that's something that I don't believe we're seeking an ordinance change or something that would require 2 votes. So if we could perhaps just move it to a council item or a council agenda item and get a report from Dan or city attorney, excuse me, on what it is that drives the structure, and is there any variability, regionally, nationally, and how we can, better determine, how that entity operates and as it relates to the council.
Yeah, that would actually give a little bit more time for the city attorney to do a little bit further digging. Unless there's any council members that have any issue, we'll just go right to the next city council meeting with that as an agenda item. All right. I'm getting head down, so, yep. Thank you, Mr. Kavami. Mr. Veen, any comments this evening?
Yeah, I was planning to give somewhat of a update on what happened at the executive, or the MPO exec committee on the December 20th. I don't know if that's worthwhile right now. I think there's a lot more questions that are out there. But I think for the city council's knowledge, I'd probably give a quick update of what happened at the meeting and describe the outcome that happened. On the 20th, there was a motion made and seconded within the MPO on the street and highway master plan to approve it as was presented. I made the motion then to amend the original motion that was going to approve it as presented, to remove the intercity bridge from the illustrative list as the city council, Grand Forks City Council had recommended. Tricia, you seconded that motion. So we had a base motion to approve the original plan. We amended the motion. We voted on the amendment of the motion, and the amendment passed 5-3 to incorporate the wording that the city of Grand Forks had approved. Then we went ahead and we voted on the motion as amended, and that motion failed on a 4-4 vote. So we had a 5-3 vote to have an amended motion, but it did not pass and failed on a 4-4 vote. So a tie it has to be in the affirmative, so a tie didn't cut it. So a motion was made the next time around, about approving the original, again, MPO Street and Highway Master Plan. Again, we did not make any repeat amendments. We've already tried that. So then the new motion then was approved, and it included myself voting for the motion. I used my own discretion at that point. Did not want to risk the freezing of federal transportation funds for all the other projects that we have going. And we needed to have a approved plan from the MPO. That ended up passing. So that's kind of how that laid out with the different votes on the MPO Street and Highway Master Plan. And would certainly be open to answer any questions should people ask about that.
Mayor, I've got a quick question.
Yep. Please, Mr. Weigel.
Maybe two questions. Mr. Veen, how long did this meeting last in total? Was it, or I'll just ask, how long did the meeting last from start to finish, approximately?
Half.
Okay. And so,
I'm sorry, how long was that?
It was slightly over an hour, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
between the first motion that was amended that had ultimately failed due to the tie and the second motion,
Okay.
how long or how much discussion or how long did the discussion take place? Or did it go from, okay, that motion failed, somebody made the motion to approve it as is, and we voted, we're done? Or can you give me a time frame of those two items?
I would say less than 5 minutes.
There was a lot of discussion before that, but yeah, between the two, there wasn't a lot of more discussion because we had kind of discussed everything.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Veen related to that? And then we'll have on the council meeting coming up. Mr. President Sandy, do you have something?
Yeah, question for Mr. Veen. So, Mr. Veen, it sounds like you had, and thank you, Ms. Lansky, for that overview. It sounds like you had discussion prior to the votes. After the first vote failed 4-4, what other compromise did you suggest?
What other council, what?
What other compromise did you suggest?
I didn't propose any additional compromise. I guess I wasn't aware of anything that I would propose.
So why did you feel like you had to take the vote then? Why didn't you bring it back to the council tonight to discuss further strategies for our community based upon your representing the wishes of the city council? I understand you saying you're worried about the freezing of federal dollars. The 3 weeks isn't going to make any difference in the construction season in 2024. Why did you have to agree at that minute?
I was and still am under the impression that we had to have a decision made by year's end, that was the deadline, that the MPO had to get that information to the DOT.
It's an arbitrary deadline. You're on the MPO, Mr. Veen.
I am.
Yeah, it's an arbitrary deadline imposed by the MPO, put on a timeline provided by the MPO to make it so that it's very difficult for us to have these conversations. I don't understand why you would think that it wouldn't be in the right and best interest of the community of Grand Forks to walk away from the table, either try to come up with another compromise or walk away from the table and say you need to bring it back to Grand Forks City Council. But we can have further discussions about this later. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, thank you. Any other discussion related to the MPO? Otherwise, we'll continue that at the next council meeting. All right, we got a couple more council members left. Vice President Weber, any comments this evening? President Sandy, do you have any other comments this evening?
I hope everyone has a wonderful 2024. It should be another great year for our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I do not have any comments this evening, so I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move adjournment.
Motion for Ms. Osowski. Do we have a second? Anybody else want to adjourn? Mr. Rydell seconds that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.